Hi, welcome to Lichter Filmfest. I'm really happy to introduce Lorentzen, the director of Midnight Family, our opening movie. Some people really had difficulties to find out that it is a documentary and not a fictional movie. You can tell us a little bit how you found this idea and found this family in Mexico.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and for picking the film as part of the festival. It's an honor, and I think I really admire you all kind of making the festival happen despite how complicated it is with the current state of the world. I was living in Mexico City at the end of 2015. And I was living just around the corner from Mexico City's General Hospital. And I was working on a few different films, projects that weren't really working out. But one morning, I woke up one morning and just parked in front of my apartment was a family inside of an ambulance. And I was curious enough to stop and start talking with them. And I kind of learned that they run a private EMT business, and they were quick to invite me on a night of work. And in that first night, I just saw this whole underworld of healthcare that was stepping in for a lack of government services and doing it while raising some really big ethical questions about how care is given, how money is involved in the lives of kind of really desperate patients. And so I stayed in Mexico on and off for another 3 years, filming with them and getting to build a really close relationship with the Achaia family.
This family is only men. How is their relation? That was who? There's a father, an uncle, and 2 sons. Is that right? Or
yeah, that's more or less right. The uncle is more of a friend, employee,
okay.
Manuel. And there is a mother, her name's Johanna, and she just doesn't really get along with some of the family members and lives in a different place and kind of early on asked to not be in the film. So it is, for better or worse, it's kind of a boys' club.
As I mentioned before, some people are impressed about the camera work. How many nights did you join them to get such a good amount of pictures?
I shot over the course of 3 years, but maybe a total of 90 to 100 nights in the ambulance, starting, sometimes at 1 or 2 in the afternoon and filming all the way till 7, 8, 9 in the morning. They work 24 hours a day.
Wow. The most shocking thing from, let's say, Middle European point of view is, of course, private health systems.
Yeah.
Can you, I mean, basically it's clear where it comes from, but is there a relation from the US as well, or is it
yeah, I mean, the systems are quite different, but you see some really similar themes. Mexico promises healthcare to all of its citizens, and just simply doesn't have the infrastructure to provide it. It's a country where 6 or 7% of the population has private insurance, really small number, but something like 2/3, 3/4 of all infrastructure is private. So you have a lot of people paying in cash last minute for essential health services. In the US, we don't promise healthcare to anybody. And you have similar systems where people are kind of limited financially about what kind of care they're able to get. And that plays out in really, really, problematic ways for people. So I think looking at the film on a very general level, I think you see how complicated it gets when the well-being of patients is tied to the financial well-being of a business.
Having our program focusing on power. I think looking at Mexico, can you tell me a little bit how it feels to live there?
Well, I can speak to the theme of power as it relates to Midnight Family. I think what I wanted to show in the film is how these really, really robust systems of corruption that often start at high levels of government kind of trickle down through this ladder to people like the Achaia family. See how corruption eventually gets to the citizen level and is the kind of deciding the life and death of people. And it's a system where really nobody is getting what they need to survive. The patients aren't the Ochoa family, isn't the police officers aren't either. And there is this kind of really complicated power dynamic of how money and legality is determined, but it's a system that is kind of failing everybody. And there's also kind of a powerlessness that you see with the patients in the film, people who are expecting, you know, a certain level of care promised by the government, and, you know, have kind of found themselves in this really tricky situation where they don't know where to go to get care, and they don't know how much it's going to cost, and they're very much just at the mercy of private businesses. So I think Mexican society is definitely a society that relies on different levels of power and powerlessness. You know, in the US, I think we have, you know, say 4 or 5 social classes, and in Mexico, I would say there's maybe 7 or 8. They have, you know, some of the wealthiest people in the world, and also some of the poorest people in the world. It's a really complicated and also a really fascinating country.
This actual corona situation, could you imagine that either this the health systems, and I would talk about the Americas, could they improve by an experience like that?
I think Mexico and a lot of developing countries are going to have an incredibly difficult time with this virus. Mexico's health system was entirely overwhelmed before the coronavirus, and the thought of their hospitals getting a surge of patients is a devastating one. The economics of it too, that, you know, the number of people in Mexico, about 60% make a living in some sort of informal employment, so not a registered tax-paying job. A lot of those people make in a day what they're able to spend for meals and rent, and that has been stopped, and those people almost immediately are in need of food and shelter. And I think it's going to be really tough. I think we haven't even seen the tip of this thing.
Yeah, probably. Okay, how does this is also a question we are trying to work with right now, because this is even something real over here, that these let's say small but more independent working filmmakers might suffer a lot from this situation, because they right now they can't do their movies because it's not possible.
Yeah.
And they might lose a lot of money by maintaining their staff, or by trying to maintain themselves through this crisis. How do you feel your life as a filmmaker is infected in San Francisco?
I do. I have one big project that I have been planning to start shooting for many months now, and it's international, and I won't be able to shoot it until, you know, travel becomes possible. And I think in kind of a nice way, it's encouraged me to look locally, to look for stories that are possible here, right, you know, next to me in San Francisco, and kind of look for more intimate, smaller films that maybe can be made sooner. So we'll see. I think I definitely am concerned that it's going to be tough, but I think it's kind of, asking us to change and asking us to find new ways to make it work. And I think filmmakers, it's, kind of our job to look for the stories that are relevant and the ones that are possible. And it's a shock like this takes a little bit to digest, but hopefully there will be many stories that need to be told. There will be, I know it.
Yeah, that's good, because we are really sure that we want to see another film of you. And
oh, well, thank you.